You find yourself in a storm, and it feels like you've been abandoned by God, abandoned by people, and the darkness seems to be never ending at times. Sometimes you even run into people who give you platitudes that don't really help at all, and you feel even more alone. Today, I want to share with you what to do when you're having trouble trusting God in the storm, and how you can find rest when the storms of life come. I want to give you hope that you will get to the other side of this storm, and it will not overtake you. Hi, I am Carolyn. Welcome to Abide in Jesus, the show for women who want to experience Christ's healing touch in their lives. One of my favorite verses when I don't understand what's going on is Proverbs 3:5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." And that's in the NIV. I often want to understand, to make sense of why someone did or said something so terrible, or understand why something happened. It's like I want to know what's going to happen and have all the details, the whole map. And sometimes all I have is a promise from God and possibly a glimpse into what God can do with this situation. And I have to come to a place of being okay with not understanding, but choosing to trust God with all my heart and lean not on my understanding. Often when I'm faced with something I just do not understand, I need to say out loud, "Lord, I choose to trust that you are bigger than this storm, and I choose to trust you in it." The second thing that you can do when you are in a storm is to focus on Jesus. It is so easy to focus on the storm instead of Jesus, to focus on what people are doing, what the enemy seems to be doing, or the wrongs that were done, and the darkness that seems to loom and have power. But to get through the storm, look at Jesus instead. Focus on the promises that he's made to you. Focus on what he has spoken to your heart in prayer. Focus on what he has already done. When training for ministry, one of the first things we learned was to always keep Jesus the focus. Not ministry, not other people. Jesus. Always keep Jesus the focus of everything. And one of the guys I went to Bible college with, he was going through a hard time. He had a lot of people saying that he couldn't do what God had called him to do, and he shouldn't do this and he shouldn't do that. Well, what he did is he wrote down what God had told him, what God had promised him on a piece of paper, and put it in his pocket. And whenever the doubts came, whenever the naysayers came, he pulled out that promise, and he would just look at that piece of paper with God's promise, and he kept the focus of what God had promised him in his pocket. He kept it near him at all times. When we do the first two things mentioned, trust in the Lord and lean not on our own understanding, and focus on Jesus and what he has said, rather than on what the enemy is doing or the storm, we will be able to rest in the midst of the storm, not allowing it to toss us back and forth, but resting in the promises God has made to us, knowing that God is bigger than these storms. And whether we see him working or not, he will carry us through to the other side. Because, dear sister, there is another side to this storm. Let me say that again. There is another side to this storm. There is a day where you will be standing on the other side of this storm if you do not give up. And I want to leave you with this scripture as you think of standing through this storm. It's Galatians 6:9 in the NIV. "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Know that Jesus has not abandoned you. You are not alone in this storm, and he will carry you through this. Know that it's okay not to understand. And know that you will one day stand on the other side of this storm, and you will be stronger and more confident in God to carry you through anything else. To trust God through this storm and find rest, choose to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. To focus on Jesus instead of all the evil going on around you. Choose to focus on His Word, His promises, and His presence in your life. Know that you can find rest in Him, and you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. The storm wants you to give up, give in, blame God, and not move forward. But when you stand through the storm, through trusting, focusing on Jesus, and resting in Him, you will come out on the other side of this, stronger than before, more confident in God to keep His promises to you, and carry with you what you have seen, the provision and deliverance of the Lord, and you will also become a lighthouse for other people. Thank you for listening to Abide in Jesus. This episode was inspired by day 12 of my Bible study, Healing the Father Wound. To find out more, visit carolynsbooks.com.